As everyone knows, this show is filmed here in the heart of New York City. So what better guest than one of the most talented musicians to come out of NYC?
NYC, baby, NYC.
And a guy who even has a huge statue in his honor in the middle of the harbor.
That's right. That's right.
Though your hair looked different.
That's when I used to dress in drag, though.
Right. Liberty Devitto.
Yay!
So, how'd you like that intro?
I like that intro, and I brought along my new band, the Slim Kings, and Michael and Andy. And we'll talk about them later, but let's talk about me.
Well, it's always about you, isn't it?
It's always about me.
Very nice. Well, you know, you were a veteran of, you've actually dealt with me before and still came back, which is impressive.
Could you believe it?
On my radio show 3 times, because we have a lot in common. We're both from Brooklyn.
Yes.
We're both drummers.
Yes.
You played with Billy Joel for 30 years.
So did you.
I played one of his albums 30 times. There's a lot of similarity there. But yeah, so you played with him longer than anybody. How did you guys get hooked up?
Back in the day, I had a band called Topper. It was actually myself, Russell Javers, and Doug Stegmeyer, and another guy named Howie Emerson. Billy was recording in L.A., using studio musicians and going on the road with a different band. And Doug Stegmeyer from Topper got the gig on the Street Life Serenade tour. On that tour, Billy said he wanted to move back to New York. He wanted to get the same musicians that play on the record that would tour with him. And he wanted a New York-style drummer. And Doug said, well, you know the guy, because I had known Billy since I was like 17. We played in the same club in different bands together. We'd cross each other in the dark and just say hi. So I auditioned for him, and we went into the studio, recorded what became the album Turnstiles. And it was just me, Doug, and Billy. So when we listened back, Billy would say, you know, I could use some guitars on this. And we said, we know guitar players. And so Topper eventually became the Billy Joel Band.
Now, you say you knew Billy from the beginning. Did you have any sense he was going to be as big a deal as he ended up at that time?
No, not at all. But he just did a song that I really liked. He did a couple of songs I really liked. He sang in a group called The Hassles, and he did a song called Colored Rain by Traffic, and Steve Winwood sang lead. And I was really surprised that he did that song, because it was kind of, you know, not a whole lot of people had the first Traffic album. That and You Got Me Humming, they did by Sam and Dave, which was really good, you know. So I thought they were good.
Yeah, so it's always interesting meeting guys who knew somebody who became that successful way back then. Yeah. And from what I understand, Billy found you entertaining, which is one of the reasons why he kept you around so long.
Yes. He took me, we went to the Soviet Union, and only the singers and him were going down to Tbilisi to do this thing in this monastery. And he wanted me to come along just for comic relief. So I didn't. I actually ended up playing drums too.
So you amused him?
I amused him like a clown.
Right, that.
Like funny, like a clown with big shoes and a red nose.
See? This is good material. So, all right, that was one of the first bands to play in the Soviet Union, right, when things kind of opened up?
First band to do a full production. Like what they see at Madison Square Garden, that's what they saw in Moscow and in Leningrad.
And what was it like? How did the crowd respond?
Well, in the beginning, it was like you had to be a member of the party to get tickets. And then they sold some later on when when there was some left over. But so the people from the Communist Party that were members of the Communist Party were up front. We started playing, we opened up with Angry Man, and we could see people like putting their hands over their ears and like making faces and stuff like that. So Billy made an announcement, you know, first as we're playing, he's looking at me going, we're dead, this is over. So,
and he could mean literally at that point.
Yeah, literally, we could have been dead. So he made an announcement after a few songs and said, look, we're doing this just like you would see it in the United States. It's going to be this loud through the whole show. It might even get louder. So if you want, why don't you move to the back and give your seat to those people in the back? Because he heard people cheering in the back. And once that happened, that switch happened, they went nuts. Yeah. They went crazy. Yeah, they loved us.
And did you deal with them after the show? Were they real curious about America?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they were very curious about America. As a matter of fact, we were told that we were briefed in Washington by the U.S. Embassy and the.
Because what year was this?
87. The wall was still up. Yeah.
Right.
And they told us we couldn't take pictures of military, couldn't take pictures of bridges, couldn't take a lot of pictures of military posts and stuff like that. And we couldn't bring Bibles, we couldn't bring Time magazine, we couldn't bring any kind of magazine, newspapers and stuff like that, because they didn't want anybody to know what was going on. So yeah, we were pretty scared going there. And like I said, nobody was moving when we first started playing, but by the time we ended in Leningrad, the soldiers were up and twirling their hats on stage and throwing them off the stage and stuff like that.
Is there any video of that? That would be good.
There is. There's the live concert from Moscow in or Leningrad. It was on HBO a few times. Yeah.
Now you won a Grammy, at least one, with Billy, right? What was that like?
One.
Well,
yeah.
10.
No, Just the Way You Are won Record of the Year.
Right.
It was great that it won Record of the Year because if you've written Song of the Year, like with the Slim Kings, Michael writes most of the material. We come up with the music and stuff, but Michael writes a lot of the lyrics and he's got his own stuff going on. Or if he hired me and Andy to do one of his songs, and it won Grammy for Song of the Year, it would be all about Michael because he wrote the song, right? When it wins Record of the Year, that means everybody involved in making that record had a part to do with it winning Record of the Year.
Right.
So that was cool. And the next year, 52nd Street won Album of the Year.
What was your favorite Billy song?
My favorite Billy song? There's a lot of them. I must have done 150 of them with him. So, I don't know, a lot. There's a lot. What's yours?
My favorite, actually, it's a toss-up. Well, and I know this is kind of an interesting point because it's kind of had something to do with your whole issue with him, but I really like to go to extremes.
Yes.
Thought that was a great song, and you know what else I loved? Keeping the Faith.
That is a good one. I just knocked my mic off. I'm going to put it back
Can
on.
we still hear him okay?
I'm good.
Yeah. Part of being a rock star is adapting to the things that go wrong on stage. So, yeah, it was lyrically, I mean, I think that was really brilliant.
Extremes.
Oh, well, that was, but so was Keeping the Faith.
Oh, Keeping the Faith was, yeah, it was okay. It's the lick is a rip-off from Clean Up Woman by Betty White, Wright. Or
I know the
Wright.
song.
Yeah. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah.
But he had some really cool stuff to say in there.
He did, because you grew up in that time. When he talks about Matador boots and Sensen and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, that was good.
Having sex in the car.
Yeah, well, that still goes on.
Really? I got to hang out in your
Andy
neighborhood.
doesn't? Sex in the car?
In your car?
Subway car, in a subway car.
So what's it like? What's it like playing with these young whippersnappers here?
Well, I'll tell you what, it's great because we were talking the other day, right, Michael? What were you saying about that? I would play something and you would say it's something and blah blah. You know.
Yeah, well, Liberty will play a beat, or we'll share records with one another, and he'll play some. For instance, there was a Steely Dan song. And we were listening to it, and they said, it'll be kind of like this. And Andy and I, wait a second, that's Lord Tariq and the Young Guns. Peter Guns, like that's a hip-hop hit from our childhood. So
you're not claiming the hip-hop sample music from before, are you?
So the samples that
look that up.
the samples that we gravitated towards are the same grooves that he grew up on and very often created.
Yeah.
So we keep meeting in the same place musically. We just skipped a big chunk of time.
There's a big record recently
Now, I hear...
that sampled
yeah.
Zanzibar. You know that Billy Joel tune, Zanzibar?
Yeah.
The dude Action Bronson just sampled that, and it's like that same groove that like, you know what I mean? Just like, so it's all coming from the same place.
So I hear you guys met in kind of a real modern technology type of way, right? Through kind of Facebook and MySpace and stuff?
MySpace. Right? Wasn't it MySpace?
Well, I thought
Yes.
I heard that you guys connected through a mutual liking of some song on Facebook or something?
No, not me. I joined the band a little later.
Oh,
after
okay. It was you and someone else.
Yeah.
Liberty, I was playing shows. I had songs on a bunch of TV shows, and I was playing.
Yeah, did I hear Law and Order? I think you did.
Yeah, Sons of Anarchy, and a lot of shows, and I was making my solo records, and I wrote Liberty a note and said, "Will you come play on this session tomorrow?" And he came in, we did the session, and at the end of it, he said, "I really like what you do," and my jaw hit the floor, and then we decided to keep playing together, and then eventually, along with another friend of ours, we started the Slim Kings, and then Andy joined up, and now we're a trio. So, yes, technology had a lot to do with it, and technology has a lot to do with where you can find the band and where we stay active.
It's not like when I was a kid, when you met the other guy who was living above a bodega on St. Mark's Place. If he was playing the guitar too loud at 2 in the morning when you had a hangover, and you went and banged on his door, you ended up in a band together the next week. Now you meet on MySpace.
Well, Liberty was the first drummer I ever saw in concert, too. So it's a little bit of like a hero worship story, too. This was...
You excited about this?
Yeah, real
Being
excited.
worshipped and adored?
Real excited. Yeah. I'm as excited about that as when, these young, hot girls, they come up to you and they go...
Can you introduce me to Mike?
No, they go, "My parents loved your band."
Reminds me of...
Right.
What was it, Back to the Future, when the guy did the Jimi Hendrix thing, and the people were all like, "What the hell is this?" He said, "You may not like it, but your parents are going to love it." Yeah. Or your kids are going to love it.
It's your cousin, Marvin Berry. That's a great scene.
But, no, what I always told him when I first met him is, it's easy to be if you're a great drummer, it's easy to play Who songs or Zeppelin and stand out and still fit the music. But to be able to play Billy Joel songs and play something showy and not have it sound out of place, I think is like a real skill.
True, for sure. You had to hit hard and do all that cool stuff, for sure.
Talk about Who. The Who. I listened. I was in the car alone today because I went to the eye doctor, and I could turn the radio up really loud when I'm in the car. And Who Are You came on. Yeah. The drum track on that is so good.
Really?
Yeah.
He was an amazing.
Yeah, I mean, he's very steady and he's very solid at this point, and he does fills after every time Arthur Daltrey stops singing, and he's doing a fill. And then in the bridge, he plays mallards on the toms. And he's actually dancing on the toms. It's really cool.
That's crazy.
Who were some of your favorite drummers? Who?
Well, when I started out, let's see. I do like Gene Krupa better than Buddy Rich.
Do you?
Was never a big Buddy Rich fan. Like Gene Krupa, I like what he did with the drums.
Like
he made them talk, But Ringo Starr, of course, was the first drummer that I saw that I pointed at the TV and said, "That's what I want to do. I want to be in a band that does that. Makes thousands of girls scream." Still having a hard time making one girl scream, but
and wait till you play some music. I actually still remember seeing.
That's a friend of mine joke, by the way. Don Famularo, I got to give him credit.
I still remember seeing A Hard Day's Night with my camp when I was a kid. It was amazing. The movie starts, girls start screaming, movie ends, girls stop screaming and go home. They didn't even listen to the music. They just know Beatles are on, you're supposed to scream.
That's right. So the Beatles, and then Dino Danelli from a band called the Young Rascals.
Oh. Yeah, I've had Gene Cornish on my show.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Love Gene, he's a great guy. Then from there, it got, Mitch Mitchell, Ginger Baker, what's his name from Traffic, Jim Capaldi.
Jim Capaldi.
Yeah, Bernard Purdy, Steve Gadd.
What about Carl Palmer? Did you
Carl Palmer, great drummer.
That was amazing stuff. I thought. Oh, and Billy Cobham was one of my favorites.
Well, Billy Cobham plays on Diodatos 2001, the Space Odyssey.
Right.
There's probably 5 songs that I pulled the car over when they came on just to listen to them, and that was one of them. I could not believe this. How funky and how fast his rolls were.
That original Mahavishnu Orchestra was a great band.
Yeah. Crazy stuff.
So you guys got it together. I believe you have an album, right?
We have 3.
3. So how do people get a hold of this stuff?
2.5.
Well, we have a lot of them. Michael's more conservative.
Oh, is he really?
Yes, we have a lot
We
of
have
albums.
many songs.
Many songs.
No, we have one record we put out called Fresh Socks, because everybody likes fresh socks.
Yeah, that's the one I heard about.
And we had an album called Dirty Socks that was sort of put out in drips and drabs, but we haven't released it.
Are those covers of the song that's on Fresh Socks?
No, yeah, they're just done dirty with dirty words.
Dice Clay.
That's the rap version.
And then we made a record called Expensive Habits, and that's going to come out in October.
Okay. So how do people get a hold of this stuff?
Everything's found at our Facebook page and on Spotify and iTunes and wherever good and bad music is sold.
So where some of my stuff can be found?
I've never heard your music, but I got to assume it's fantastic.
Oh. Coming on again next week. We're doing the whole show about you. All right, now.
And
You're the host. Get out of here.
And we're selling vinyl, too, that's the way we all listen to music at home now.
Oh, really? You guys still...
Yeah.
I still have my records. Right? We were just talking before the show, but I finally gave up on my 8-tracks a while back, so those are gone.
You gave up on an 8-track?
Oh, yeah. But my Betamax are still working great.
That's how you're shooting this, right? On Betamax?
Yeah. I love the 8-track when you used to drive in the car in the middle of a song would switch tracks.
Oh, yeah. It was when you get a really long song,
I remember the Stones in the middle of like "Gimme Shelter" would like,
and it would stop for like 3 seconds and then click.
Side, right?
And I had one that was messed up, and so sometimes it wouldn't click through. So it would click and it would go back to the beginning of that track, and you have to sit there and pound it on the button, banging it against the wall.
You remember 8-tracks? Yeah, you too.
Oh.
You guys are too young. No
You
way.
kids
Never
today.
never seen one.
Cassette tapes.
You go.
Yeah. We used to make mixtapes. I remember that with the pencil and the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing the technology. Like I wrote and directed a horror movie, and the guy who wrote the score for me did it on like a little tiny thing. It's amazing. He's a keyboard player,
Like
and
a
the equipment
cassette.
that you can use is just amazing now.
Oh yeah, you can do anything. Especially
Yeah,
with like
I
a
mean, I still have my.
laptop or-
He still has my TX 4-track like in his garage.
Oh, hell yeah, those things sound cool though. You can get some cool like
Oh, forget it.
almost like
We always had a hard time getting that to work.
like
Right?
budget tape sounds off of those things.
You have to
Boy,
mix the
that
3 tracks onto one and then the 2 onto
And
one,
bounce
so
them
you
down.
get 7 tracks
It
out.
makes you get it right like the first time you do it. You know.
So are you guys doing gigs?
Yeah.
Where can?
What am I? You have no idea what's going on.
Yeah. Could somebody give this guy a schedule?
Yeah, I know. You see, now, because I'm old school, these guys are young. They have, like, on their phones, they can find out what's going on and
Right.
everything. I have a paper calendar at home. I write down in the little square where I'm going, where we're playing.
He still has like
So
a
when he
cheap
says-
paper calendar on his wall.
Listen to me. If I'm walking down the street and I get a phone call from Michael and he says, "Are you available on the 23rd?" I always say, "I have to wait till I get home. Then I'll tell
you
you."
can't just pop it in.
I roll.
Right?
No,
Even I have learned how to put my calendar on my phone. I mean, we got to have
I
some.
think it's a choice.
we gotta work
I
on
think
it.
it's a learning curve. It's a choice. You want to stay old school, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Especially the calendar.
I dig.
because
it.
when you write it down, then you know you.
I know I wrote it down and it's there. And I just got to go to the month and there it is. In pencil, so I can erase it too if it's canceled.
So you know that we're playing
We're playing the Vault Friday night
in New Jersey.
in New Jersey.
That's Victor Records.
Why don't you put your hand up my ass and move my mouth so I can
And we're also playing
play?
in Long Island City on Sunday afternoon at the LIC bar, and then we're playing with Los Lonely Boys in July at the Space at Westbury.
Now you got a movie coming out.
I do.
Let's
It's a
hear little bit
documentary,
about that.
yes. It's a documentary. It's called The Hired Gun. The Hired Gun is a guy who's hired by the name. And the movie is about what it's like to be a hired gun. I mean, it goes through... There's so many different people in it. I mean, I'm in it. Kenny Aronoff is in it. Ghostbusters, Ray Parker Jr. is in it, but Alice Cooper's in it. Alice Cooper talks about what he looks for when he hires musicians. Rob Zombie talks about what it's like, a personality, how important that is, stuff like that. And so it's all about that. I mean, it has the funny side, the good side of being a side guy, and the tragic side of being a side guy. I talk about our bass player who, when he got cut from Billy, he ended up killing himself, and Rudy Sarzo talks about how Randy Rhoads, when he got killed in the airplane when they were on the road, you know. And there's some amazing things that are said, like, Jason Hook, who's one of the producers of the movie, he's in a band called Five Finger Death Punch. You know, he says, you're a part of this glamorous thing that's going on, but it really has nothing to do with you at all, you know. It's just, you're just hired to be there.
Well, really kind of a sad story. I don't know if you know Patrick Moraz.
Yeah.
One of the most, I told him when I had him on my show, you're one of the only people I can think of who was in 2 of my 10 favorite bands. He was in Yes, and then he went to the Moody Blues, and he was there for 10 years. And he played with the Moody Blues. He replaced, I guess, Mike Pinder. Mm. And eventually he said, you know, you guys are not paying me what the rest of you get. And they said, well, you're not a band member. You're a hired musician. And he showed them, look, I'm listed as a band member. They ended up in court, and they took him off everything. When he was on the show, he showed me, here's an album, see me? Here's the album, where am I? Here's like a fan magazine from England, see me? Now look, he was just taking off everything. It really, you could tell he felt real bad about it, obviously. Yeah. So that's a disadvantage of not being officially a band member, I guess.
Yeah, so the hired gun gets into, who's the guy that was the bass player, Metallica, that died, and then they got a new guy?
Cliff Burton was the guy who died. And then they got Jason Newsted. Yeah,
he's in it. And he talks about how when he first got the gig, he was hired to play with Metallica. They had a smash album out. He auditioned with a whole bunch of different people. He borrowed money from all his friends to go audition and had the gig. And he was on his way to Japan. He was making $500 a week for a year. Then they made him part of the band. You know, it's like you don't automatically become part of the band just because you're in, you know.
Right.
Darryl Jones, right? He's still not like an official member of the Stones.
He's not an official member of the Stones, no.
Well, they can still boot you out if you're a member of the band, though, can't they?
Yeah, I would guess they could, yeah. If you have the right agreement.
It's just you give up more money at that point than you'd be giving up if they were kicked out as a hired member.
Yeah, of course you would.
But they can still boot you out, though.
Yeah, but then you're also paying for all the production and everything that goes on now. You know, if the band loses, they go out on the tour and they lose money. If you're a hired gun, you're still getting paid your salary. If you're a band member, you're losing money.
It's like being a homeowner. You have like equity in the band. Like this is a band, we all have equity in this band.
Right.
So if this band sinks or swims, we all go the same way. But the guy we hire to mix our records, he comes in, he mixes the records, and he splits, and he gets paid whether the record's a hit or not.
Speaking of money, I heard that Billy Devitto got ripped off by his management. Yes. How did that affect the rest of you guys, speaking of band members?
Well, at that point, we were getting, every time the album sold 1 million copies, we'd get a little taste of money, you know. And in our deals, it said that every time we sold 1 million records, we would get a bonus, whatever the bonus was going to be. And when he got ripped off, he took all that back because a royalty you continue to pay, but a bonus you can stop whenever you want.
Right.
You know, so because he got ripped off, he even said to me, he goes, I feel like I'm Peter stealing from Paul, but you know, he wanted everything back. He wanted control of everything again.
No, I guess nobody else was ever involved in the songwriting, right? With him?
No, he wrote the words and music. Yeah.
Yeah. So
not the music, like not the drums, not the bass, not the guitar, right. not stuff like that. He wrote the chords,
the melody and lyrics.
Yes,
right?
yes.
Yeah. So now you guys had some kind of issue. Well, how did you end up stop playing with him after all that time?
How did we what?
Like, how did it end up? I mean, at some point, obviously, you guys parted ways.
How did that happen?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Because I read an article in the Daily News that kind of explored it somewhat.
Well, that article, what did you think of that? Billy Joel's ex-drummer wants an apology. In the film Hired Gun, these two guys have seen Hired Gun already, by the way. In the film, I say to I'm asked, would I ever play with Billy again? If you got the phone call and Billy said, let's go play. And I said, yeah, if he said, Lib, I'm sorry, let's get together again and play. I just said it just like that. Daily News. Drummer wants an apology.
What do you think of the media and how they handle things in general?
Oh, God.
I won't be offended.
I personally don't watch the news or anything. I mean, I find all my information out from By chance, if it goes by. I mean, there's so much. If you just go on AOL, everything pops up in front of you. You know, you can't get away from it. People talk about it all the time, but to get deep into stuff, you know, I don't.
Well, or just for example, how it's handled you, Billy, people around you over the years. Have you been happy or unhappy with the way the press has handled your career?
I'm not happy with it. No. I really don't care, to be honest
I've been
with
nice to you.
Huh?
I've been nice to you.
Well, you think so, but we'll talk about that later when the
Okay.
camera's off. No, I don't know. I guess it's cool. I mean, you do a great show, and you know, I used to get reviews like I look like a Buddha on top of a wedding cake, the way I play, or I look like fire hoses that are on full blast, where nobody's holding on to them, or where my arms are going. And then you would do a show that'd be like, you wake up the next morning and you go, that was a great show, I played great. And then you'd read, the worst part of Billy Joel's show was the drummer, you know. Like, what? Was that guy even there?
Yeah, it had to be
you
nice.
know, everybody has an opinion.
Well, that's true. And I mean, particularly if you're writing articles, you got to come up with something to say.
Yes, you do. And, you know, you just might not like the music. I just think people sometimes review personally rather than musically.
But also, I think a lot of times people write, if they come up with something they think it's clever, suddenly that's their opinion of what they're writing about, because it
True.
gives them an excuse to use the clever line they came up with.
True. Oh, it's the same thing with everything. I mean, today the business, when we bring the records into record companies and stuff like that, the business is run by guys that are barely 18 years old and stuff like that. And I don't know about you, these guys, but everything I play on I think is great. So and when somebody says, nah, man, I just don't hear it, it's like, what are you, deaf?
Yeah.
You know, it's like, I don't know. What do you think?
I think we get a lot of people who are our fans at those offices,
Yeah.
but they won't. They don't know what to do with it. Very much the way they don't know what to do with a lot of the music that's under their control. So there's nothing they can offer us that we can't find ourselves. In terms of the media with Liberty, I mean, he's a big deal. So he's gotten a lot of coverage. Some of it makes sense and some of it doesn't. And for our band, you know, we love to be around him. I mean, with the stories we hear, you hear some of them in Hired Gun, we hear those and then even better ones in the van. And I can tell you that, you know, even in Hired Gun, which is a movie all about sidemen, and interesting sidemen and important sidemen in musical history, there are other sides to that story that are filled with joy and fun and great and hysteria, and you know, I mean, it's not all positive, it's not all negative, it's life. And Liberty's been on an amazing roller coaster ride. We're on one together right now. We're sitting here with you in the middle of some spot in Manhattan. This is what it is.
Thunderstorm, doing background vocals.
Yeah.
What?
There's a thunderstorm going on.
Where does the background vocals come
The
in?
thunderstorm.
The thunderstorm is.
Oh, the thunderstorm's doing the background vocals.
He's a poet, man.
Got to keep up with it. You're falling behind the beat. Man.
Wow. Well, I must have fell asleep for a second.
You're
I do
okay
that.
now?
I do that.
You're
sometimes.
back.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
All right. I'm good. I'm good.
I start talking, you fall asleep.
I do. Andy kicks me under the table sometimes.
Yeah,
Oh, that one.
Yeah, that Andy.
Yeah.
Right. So I heard Sgt. Pepper's you thought was like the greatest album ever made, right?
Yeah, yeah.
You can remember your reaction the first time you heard it?
First time I heard it, yes. I remember, like, being 17 years old, going to my girlfriend's house and playing it for her, and she just kind of like ignored it. And I thought, oh, she's so lame. This is the Beatles. This is Sgt. Pepper. This is so great, this album.
That's crazy.
And then I realized I came up with this thing. It's called the Sgt. Pepper moment. When you think that something is really great, or somebody's doing something and it's really great, and then you become hip to it and you think you're as great as it is. Like a lot of musicians, when they heard Sgt. Pepper, thought, we're going to do that. And they did that, and they thought, we're as hip as the Beatles. Well, the Beatles were done with that already. They were on to the next thing, So sometimes I call some things that people are doing as a Sgt. Pepper moment. It's like, yeah, that's really good, but it's been done. You know, you just to think of the next thing to do.
So did you ditch this girl because she didn't like the album?
I did.
Good man.
Actually, she ditched me.
Because you liked the album?
No, she didn't like me.
You didn't like this guy?
I don't know.
You seemed likable.
You know,
If she didn't like
let me tell you
Sgt.
something.
Pepper's,
Let me tell you
she's
something
not
about
very good
musicians, and I think this is true. Musicians are pretty boring. I think so. I think I was fairly boring when I was a young musician learning how to play because that's all I wanted to do.
And Billy Joel kept him around because he thought he was so funny. What does that say?
That's the other side
He's
of it.
another boring young musician.
He's another boring musician, right?
Okay, well.
And you're a boring musician. Here we are.
Sitting on a couch.
Talking music.
Talking about thunderstorms and the Beatles and bands from 40 years ago.
It is.
But the Beatles remix, the new one, the new thing that's out that George Martin's kid did,
It's good? Really?
Sounds amazing.
Really?
it's unbelievable that they did that on 4 tracks.
Right.
That is unbelievable. The sounds. You know what really impressed me was their harmonies, the vocals.
Oh, well, that's what they were legendary.
Unbelievable.
Now, speaking of what you can do with 4 tracks, what did you think of the first Boston album?
It was done in his house.
Yeah.
He was the first one to have a home
Tom
studio.
Scholz.
Yeah. Yeah, there was only 2 guys.
Tom Scholz and
the
Bradley
second-
Delp,
Yeah, right.
who died in a really disturbing suicide, actually.
Yeah.
But
the album was great.
yeah, it's amazing what they did in his house.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And that was before
know
it was
that
so
album?
easy
Guys
to do
know that album?
home
I don't know the
recording.
record now.
Boston?
The first Boston album.
More Than a Feeling.
I don't know, like
know.
Peace
Boston,
of Mind,
Kansas, like
Long Time.
state or city bands. I just don't. Chicago.
You don't know bands that are the same
I don't
city?
know bands that are cities like Kansas, Boston.
It's pretty funny. He doesn't know
I just-
Kansas, Chicago, Boston.
Somebody's
Those
got to
are
teach him that Kansas isn't a
those are the
city.
holes in my like musical whatever vocabulary. I just don't know city bands.
You know
Chicago.
that? Boston?
Um,
More Than a Feeling?
I know More Than a Feeling, and I know Chicago. I couldn't tell you the order of the numbers, but I know it's a famous song with numbers. 90506.
Well, they were originally the Chicago Transit Authority, and they got sued, and they had to take Transit Authority off of their name.
Yeah. And every album was called Chicago,
Really?
right? Chicago 1, Chicago 2, 3,
Well,
4.
Zeppelin did the same thing.
Until the
Well, for a while, Zeppelin 1, 2,
Yeah.
3, 4.
What was House of the Holy? Like,
Yeah.
Well, then they
three?
stopped. Yeah.
Presence.
No, that was like 5.
and then
That's
There was
another
one
band I
more.
never got.
Never got into
I
Zeppelin.
love John Bonham.
you ruined.
Don't get me
Zeppelin for
wrong.
man. You ruined him.
And if they came out with instrumental albums without his voice on it,
Not a big Robert Plant fan.
no. I loved the first album. There's mistakes on it and everything was great. He sang down here. Then all of a sudden, he was up in the stratosphere singing very sexist lyrics, wearing a girl's blouse and having a bulge in his pants that I just could not look at anymore.
Ever
It
since
was
you
over
said
for
that, I
me.
can't-
So you've seen the song remains the same.
Ruined Led Zeppelin for
Yes.
me.
Yeah.
Every
That
time,
was,
like, he's
that,
right.
he was had an interesting persona there going on.
Yeah, it just was like, no, you guys are heavy.
Liberty's a man's man.
Hey, you got to think about it though. Like their first song on their first album was "Good Times, Bad Times."
Right.
That's crazy. Like to think about it. It's the first thing you hear. Yeah.
love the fourth album. Stairway to Heaven, I mean, that was a great song.
I hate that song.
He hates that song.
I
I've
do.
had to teach that song a lot of times, so I can't do it.
I don't like that song.
I've heard that
It's
song.
the same chords as
butchered.
Chim Chimmery, isn't it?
I didn't know that. Huh.
It's
Dick
the same
Van Dyke
chords.
all this time.
That's
Wow.
walk down.
Yeah, I thought it was like some
So they
classic.
plagiarized. They were like early hip hop.
Yes.
Well, all those lyrics are ripped off blues lyrics.
Yeah.
All
School of
his
My
They're
lyrics.
all
Lyrics.
like lead belly lyrics, and they just move a word or two around.
And here I am coming up with original lyrics, and where's it getting?
What's the point, man? What's the point? There you go.
Is it the Great Steal?
Can you send me some Lead Belly albums so I can get someplace?
Sure.
You're also in another band. Why don't we give them a little bit of a plug?
The Lords of 52nd Street. Yes. This is myself, Richie Cannata, who played saxophone on all those great records, Scenes from an Italian Restaurant, Let It Go Die Young, Still Her and Me, Until the Night, and Russell Javers, who also played on the records. We got a band called the Lords of 52nd Street. We got the name because on the 52nd Street album, on the back cover, that's Thunder. On the back cover, Phil Ramone, when he listed the band, he called us the Lords of 52nd Street.
Oh, okay.
And so we got I call him a stunt Billy, this guy Dave Clark, who actually I think he thinks he is Billy, but he's very good. And the thing that I don't want to say that we're better than Billy Joel is now, but Billy has dropped the keys to most.
I think the drummer I hear is just as good as the one Billy used to use.
Just as one as Billy used to use. But Billy has dropped the keys, like, you know, a whole step, maybe a little more. And nobody in the band is related to the records anymore. So we do the songs in the original keys of the record, and there's 3 guys from the original band. So we sound more like the record than Billy does.
Yeah, so Billy is basically covering you guys.
Billy is the cover band, yes. Billy's the tribute band to Billy.
Now, where do you guys play? When
we
see this
we
band?
play at the it's called the Space out in Westbury Theater. Patchogue. We played upstate. We played at the Schenectady, the street fair that they had last week, and played in Florida, a bunch of places.
Now, I saw you with your buddy Dan Bruder back when you were on my old radio show.
Yep.
Is he still? What's he doing? You guys still play at all, or no?
You know,
you had that TV show.
It was a good idea, but I think he got screwed by money people and stuff like that. It was a fun idea, and it was fun while we were doing it, but he got screwed by money people, and then he got really sick. But he had called me recently to do something again, and I just said, look, I got too many. I knew too many things. I was playing Ronnie Spector at the time, the Slim Kings, Lords of 52nd Street, Billy J. Kramer, doing a whole bunch of stuff, and I just recently had a baby.
You got your figure back right away.
Yes, new baby. It's number 4, my 4th daughter, and she's 4 months old now. So I told Dan, I said, you know, I can't do another thing. I have to stop doing things, you know. So there's some things that I kind of don't do that I would have done if the baby wasn't here.
Right.
If it was just me and my wife living, you know.
Well, speaking of daughters, you have one who's done pretty good for herself.
Not bad.
Big star in what's it, Chicago Med?
Chicago Med. Yes, she plays this doctor in the. She's a pediatrician in the emergency room. And the funny thing is, you ready for this?
Absolutely.
Michael's father is a director, and he's directed some of those shows.
Really?
Yeah. It's ancestral right here.
So I see.
Yeah, it's quite a coincidence. We would send selfies of ourselves playing in some crappy bar upstate or something, and they would send back pictures of them on some very glamorous film set.
And you mentioned that Thomas Waits was your acting teacher way out on the show, like last month.
Yeah, that was. I had a couple very bit parts in a couple big TV shows where I would go like, it wasn't me, but it was that guy. You know, that guy on Law and Order, and it's always the same person about 7 minutes in. And I got typecast in a couple movies as the stoner, because I used to.
I could see that.
No, you got to tell me what episode I liked. I'm a Law and Order freak. You wrote. What did you write for them? I know you didn't write Dum Dum, because that was like, you know what?
No,
that
if I wrote Dum Dum,
that was
we'd be having this interview on my plane.
That was pre-stamping their feet.
Oh,
That's
yeah?
actually a recording of pre-stamping their feet. That Dum Dum in Law and Order. It's true.
The joke on set is that when that happens, it's cha-ching for Mike Post, who's the person who did write that.
But what did you actually write on them?
I wrote, well, they used a lot of my songs that were pre-existing, so my records under my own name. And then I think once they asked me to do like a source cue for an episode about a rock band in Brooklyn. So I had to do, I think they would have a concert sequence, and I was the guy who would come and stand there on the set and say, this is what the gear should be. I'd bring in the young players that I knew.
You weren't involved in the one where that band set fire to the place, were you?
No.
That was like
mine was the killer guitar player, literally.
A killer guitar player. Yeah. Very nice.
That's right. I shouldn't laugh. Pays my bills.
We should hear more from you. What's your career been about? Tell us.
My career's
Playing with all
been
these
cool.
happening people.
Playing with all these happening people. Before that, I was getting booed off the Apollo. Things like that. As it happens. No, it wasn't stand-up. That was cool. We did Showtime at the Apollo, and we got booed off in like 7 seconds. And
White guys go over big there, I've been told.
Yeah, man. It was a mixed group, but I think
there were black people who didn't like you and black people who didn't like you a lot.
I guess it was everybody. You know what I mean? I don't think it was about that. I think maybe it was just my musical skills were a little too much for them to handle.
I actually did stand up for that kind of crowd once.
How was it?
At the Village Gate. They had me sandwiched in between, like, some black girl singing Somewhere Over the Rainbow and like a reggae band. It was just like...
I could see the booker do it.
It wasn't good.
No.
It wasn't my best experience.
But Andy's, you played with Puff Daddy and all. Yeah.
I did some session work, like hip-hop stuff. I did, like, Diddy record, this other guy, Davies, who's, like, a big Harlem rapper who's kind of blowing up right now. And recently in with this cat, Joey Badass. He's, like, a young dude. He's kind of got some stuff coming out, so...
So what do you play?
Bass guitar.
Okay.
Yeah. A little bit of, like, keys, that kind of stuff, like, additional, miscellaneous.
So who's your bass player that you really looked up to growing up?
It's tough. I mean, I was big like Larry Graham, Sly and the Family Stone, that kind of stuff.
You mean like Graham Central Station?
Graham Central Station, exactly. A lot of like the James Brown players, like Bootsy was through there.
You're into the funky stuff.
Into the funky stuff. Like he was saying before, like listening to all the hip hop records and then finding out that was old soul records sampled. So like James Jamerson, Motown, all that stuff. Once you hear that, it's like, okay, this is real instruments. I can do this, like that kind of thing. So it was a lot of that stuff, and then later on, like rock. So like, Noel Redding from Jimmy's band, and other guys like that. Pino Palladino, who's like a session dude.
What do you think of Entwistle?
I love Entwistle. His tone is like almost like the bass keys on a piano.
He had to fill in all
like
the space when all those other guys are jumping all over the stage.
Yeah, I mean, he had his own thing. He played like his own style. I'd go for like a little more bottom than that, but he was like his own guy. But you gotta give it up to Entwistle.
Do you feel like any kind of generation gap when you guys are?
No, actually, no. I mean, there's obviously like it's like there's reverence for that. You know what I mean? So it's not like just being in a band with your boys or whatever. You know what I mean? Like your peers. But so there is that, but it's not like hard to connect. It was never really like a thought about thing like that. It's just music. It just kind of happens. Yeah. So not really, but there's reverence there. So it's like you'll always listen and you'll always be like kind of give it up to the experience that's in the room. Not like the experience. I mean, just like the experience.
So I know we're all looking forward to this movie. So I just heard it's like 300 theaters or something it's going to be in?
Yes, on the 29th of this month, June.
So I'm actually relevant.
Oh, yeah.
I'm on the beat this time.
Well, yeah.
I'm a week ahead of the beat.
Yes, you are. The 29th of June, it will be in 300 theaters across the country. And if you go to the Hired Gun, the film, and it comes up where you can punch in your zip code, and it'll tell you the movie theater that's close to you.
Okay. Is it going to be in Brooklyn? Or
it's going to
hometown?
be on 14th Street in the city.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how long is this going to play for?
Just the one night.
Oh, it's going to be like,
and then
you're doing like a one night
it's going to be for
stand.
sale after that. Then it'll be for sale. And then other things happen, but I can't tell you what's going to happen.
There's secretive things happening. You know? I could like probably approach him privately and
grease it a little bit.
and I won't have to reveal my sources being a member of the media.
True.
I know that from Law and Order.
Like a WikiLeaks. What is his name?
What about Sons of Anarchy? How did you get hooked up with that?
I made a record in LA, and one of the people involved with making that record got really involved with doing all the music for that show. And so my first record ended up all over the first 4 seasons of that show. And it, I was just telling somebody the story of the first usage. They told me that a band, they send you a thing when your song's going to get put in a show. And you ask for a scene description so you know it's your song, the context they're going to use it in. And they said, wounded gang member gets stitched up at the clubhouse.
This is a love song.
So it wasn't, but I figured, okay, cool, fine. Wounded gang member, I can deal with that. Check will clear, all good. So, and nobody knew that Sons of Anarchy was going to be a big hit in the first season. So they used the song, and I tell my entire family to tune in.
Grandmother, everything.
Everybody, you got to watch the show. It's really exciting. My first record, the first song on my first record in this big television show. And everybody tunes in, and all my grandparents are sitting on the couch watching a guy get a bullet plucked out of his ass.
Just be happy your stuff was, just be happy your music wasn't in Game of Thrones.
Oh, and it would be something else getting plucked out of your ass.
In and out, however many times is necessary.
Yeah. So that's how that happened with, it was, I made the record in LA, and Sons of Anarchy was a very LA show. So that's how
Yeah, it was a great show. I have the whole series.
Oh, cool.
And the guy who created it is an interesting guy. That was Peg Bundy's husband, I think, in real life, right?
Katie Seagal's
Yeah.
husband, yeah, the guy with all the tattoos.
It was so interesting seeing her in that kind of role after seeing her in Married with Children all those years.
Yeah.
She's
Playing
actually
like-
an amazing singer. She was Bob Dylan's background singer for a long
was she?
time.
Really?
And now the band, there's like a house band from that show that she fronts called the Reluctant Apostles, I think. Or no, the Forest Rangers. And they're out on the road.
Yeah, it's, did you actually deal with people on the show, or was this just like send them the music and that's it?
I dealt with the music supervisor and the music composer. So he would tell me where it was going to get used, and you know, everybody. I think I met Katie once, but it would be in passing, and it certainly wouldn't be anywhere other than in the studio.
Right. Now, Liberty, what do you feel, as a great drummer that you are, about drum solos?
I hate drum solos.
I knew that.
I don't like drum solos.
And why is that?
I think it's 20 minutes of self-indulged
So your third favorite
masturbation.
song ever was Indigata Devita.
No, you know, Indigata Devitto isn't as long as you think it was.
It just seems that
It's
way.
not as long as Toad, which I like, Toad.
Was that Ginger Baker?
That was Ginger Baker. One of my favorite drum solos is a drum solo called Far More Drums that Joe Murillo did with the Dave Brubeck trio. You know, first he did Take 5, and he did a little solo in there where you could hear he's working on playing in 5. And then on the next album he did a solo called Far More Drums, which is just total drum solo, which is incredible. I like that. There was a great solo that Buddy Rich did when he played on the Muppets, and he played around the room on everything that was in the room, which was great.
Air conditioner.
Everything, pots and pans, everything.
Did you grow up like that? I grew up banging on the top of my air conditioner on the desk in school, getting yelled at by the teacher.
Yeah, yeah. I actually asked my father why the drums, you know, because I don't know why I started playing drums, and he said because they didn't make Prozac when I was younger. So I guess they got me a set of drums instead.
Well, my drum teacher was like, what the hell do you want to play the drums for? It's like the most impractical instrument. You got to lug this thing all over the place, screw a million nuts together, and it really is a pain in the ass. You can't really like go out and perform by yourself. I mean, you could be a
No, you
guitarist
can't.
somewhere or a piano player somewhere.
Well, bass and drums you can't go out by yourself.
Although now
anyway.
you can in the subway with a couple of empty cans of paint.
Paint cans? Yeah.
So things have evolved, but so my teacher's wrong now.
He is.
His name was Joel Rothman. I don't know if you ever heard of him, an old jazz guy.
Joel Rothman.
He eventually left the country and went to England. He wrote like all these music books. And he'd take like one little, because he also wrote children's books. So he'd write like a 15-page book on playing 3 against 2 in jazz. And he had like hundreds of books. I used to take them to the post office for him when I was a kid. I'd get free lessons to. I'd go to the post office, ship them all over the world. He eventually went to England to popularize his books there. But kind of innovative. Some interesting stuff.
Yeah, I never took lessons, so.
No?
I took one lesson. I hated it. I wanted to learn how to play like Ringo.
And yet you give drum clinics, don't you?
I do. But I talk about what it's like to make your drum part, to not take lessons, right? To make a drum part of the song. You know. Don't do all those fast fills that you've learned from your drum teacher.
You want to play tasty.
Sometimes the great drummer says, you know what, maybe I shouldn't play on this. Great drummer will say that, because you'll hear the song.
Reminds me of the intro, beginning of Stairway to Heaven. I know you don't like the song, I got to bring it up a couple of more times. So, I know, well, you're a big Ringo fan, obviously, and yet Ringo took a lot of flack over the years. What do you think of that?
I think he was, he got a lot of bad flack. You know, people say Paul told him what to do or this, that. But I don't know if you got the new album. There's a box that comes with the remixed CD, and then there's 3 other CDs of outtakes of Sgt. Pepper. And you'll hear them say, George Martin say, okay, for the benefit of Mr. Kite, take 1. And it's the same thing that Ringo is playing on the final track that you hear on the record. So his interpretation was like right away. He knew what to do right away.
He picked up things quickly.
Yes, came up with things quickly, and they could splice songs together because his tempo was so great. You know, I mean, he was great.
Always sounded like him too, like his fills, starting with the left hand, that kind of thing.
Fills, nobody else could do them unless you do it that way.
Yeah.
Now, you were playing for a while at the Cutting Room with that band. Was it the New York Hit Squad with...
The New York Hit Squad, Ricky Byrd and Christine Ullman. And we do gigs once in a while. Ricky's got a thing called... it's a recovery thing. It's called... What's it called?
It was Rock.
I forget. I'm sorry, Ricky.
Getaway.
Clean Getaway, thank you. It's called Clean Getaway.
Okay.
And he actually just made an album, and he's going to be performing at these like rehab centers and stuff like that. And he's going to give away the album.
Because now they do have Prozac.
Huh?
Because now they do have Prozac.
Yes, now they do have Prozac. And he gives them to people who are in recovery, you know, encourage them and stuff like that.
Now, you played with Ronnie Spector a fair amount.
Yes, I did.
Which I guess it was good that you already knew the part to Say Goodbye to Hollywood.
Yeah. That was the one
That was
song
a great version that she did of that. What did you think of it?
That was with the E Street Band. She did that. Yeah, it was good.
So, what's she like to work with? She's been around a long time.
Yeah, Ronnie's great. Ronnie, she's the queen of rock and roll, really. I mean, you know, that voice, she still has that voice. I mean, she doesn't sing it in the same key as the record because obviously she's older.
70 years old.
Yeah, I don't want to say how old she is. You don't say how old a woman is. But
go look on the internet. It's not a secret.
Your friend Neon wouldn't tell me I got to look on the internet to find out how old she is.
Absolutely. That's why she paid the KGB to falsify all those records.
Yeah, yeah, it's all changed. So yes, Ronnie's great. I mean, she still has it, that vibrato. She still sounds like Ronnie Spector.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Was she good to work with?
Yeah, she was great. Wonderful. I mean, she had great players in her band, a great musical director, and it was fun.
Now, you've dealt, I don't know how much you played with him, but you were at least somewhat friendly with Ted Nugent, who's a pretty wild guy. What's Ted like? Do you have any good Ted stories?
Actually.
I'm going to drink in honor of Ted.
Listen to me. Actually, I have a picture somewhere. I went to audition for Ted, flew to Detroit, auditioned for Ted when he was leaving the Amboy Dukes, and he's going to start his own band.
Wow.
And we both have hair down to here and everything like that, and it's like, after I played with him, I said, you know what? I don't want to do this. I don't like the music you're playing. And I flew back home. Yeah.
You said it just
Dodged
like
that bullet.
Yeah, I flew back home. But
Yeah,
I became very good friends with Derek St. Holmes, who was a singer for Ted Nugent Band. And a lot of people think he's in Hired Gun also, Derek St. Holmes. And he talks about how a lot of people thought it was Ted that sang the songs, but it wasn't. It was really Derek that sang the songs. And he talks about how one night a guy came to a show, and then he came backstage after the show, and the guy looked at Derek and said, you know, it's too bad Ted doesn't feel good tonight, but you did a really great job. I mean, you sounded just like Ted when you sang those songs.
Wow.
And it was like, Derek's like, Ted didn't sing them on the record. I did, you know, but Derek never got credit for it.
Were you a singer at all?
Am I a singer?
Yeah.
No, I'm not a singer. Even though I did have the #1 record in Australia once.
Really?
We did a version of Shout from Yankee Stadium.
Nice.
And Billy started it, you know, just off the cuff, just started the song Shout. And then when it gets to the middle, do you remember when you used to be 9 years old? He didn't know the words, so he took his microphone and stuck it in my face, and I sang that whole bridge part.
Just on the spot.
Just on the spot.
Wow.
While I was still playing drums. Like I'm leaning forward and singing and playing drums. They released it in Australia. It became #1.
I gotta find that.
Biggest rock star in Australia.
Big. Huge.
Okay, Liberty, we're about to head out. Contact info.
that was
Time
fast.
flies when you're hanging out with me.
Contact info.
I'm like the guy in Veep.
Yeah. One more minute. Hey, come over here. Let me see. Come over here.
Yeah.
Come over here.
Come on. You can tell
Come on.
everybody.
This is what goes on behind us. This is what goes on behind us. Come over here. Come sit over here with us. Sit here. He tells us 1 more minute to go.
Contact information, Liberty. We're going.
Contact information.
SlimKings.com.
Say it.
SlimKings.com. Facebook, Slim Kings. Liberty Devitto. It's all Googleable.
It's all
findable.
Googleable.
Okay.
Yeah.
And me, I have contact information. I want you to find me, damn it. The Andy Troy Show. We've got a Facebook fan page. We've got a YouTube channel. You can write me at andyftroy@AOL.com. Okay, we had a great show, meeting the old, the new, and me, even older. But for now, we're gone.